The stars outside the window looked like scattered diamonds on black cloth. Lieutenant Unipark stood at the observation deck of the human cruiser Horizon's Edge and watched them slowly drift by. She had dreamed of space since she was a little girl in Bazan. She had worked hard, studied hard, and trained hard to get here. But she never imagined her first real mission would be this: babysitting aliens. 3 days ago, the Horizon's Edge had received a distress signal. A Velari diplomatic vessel had suffered a terrible engine failure. The ship was dying, and 37 Velari were trapped inside with no way to escape. Captain Taiho Shin did not hesitate. He ordered the rescue immediately. The Velari were not like humans. They were tall, covered in silver fur, and looked something like wolves that had learned to walk on 2 legs. They had sharp teeth, pointed ears, and long tails. Their eyes glowed amber in low light. They were proud creatures who valued strength and loyalty above all things. They called their family groups packs and protected their young with fierce dedication. When the Velari came aboard the Horizon's Edge, they were scared and confused. Their ship was gone. They were surrounded by strange creatures with flat faces and no fur. The adult Velari tried to stay calm, but Yuna could see the fear in their eyes, and the children were worse. There were 12 cubs among the refugees. They ranged from 4 years old to 11 in human terms. They were scared aloud and completely wild. They ran through the corridors howling. They bit at equipment. They refused to sleep. They trusted no one. The adult Velari needed to help repair their damaged escape pods. They needed to work with the human engineers to salvage what they could. But someone had to watch the cubs. Someone had to keep them safe and calm and out of trouble. Yuna volunteered. She had grown up as the oldest of 5 children. She had changed diapers, broken up fights, dried tears, and survived the chaos of a busy household. She figured alien children could not be much different from human ones. She was wrong. On the first day, a cub named Kale bit her arm hard enough to draw blood. Another cub, Suri, screamed for 3 hours straight because she was afraid of the humming sound the ship made. The twins, Mira and Tova, somehow got into the engineering section and nearly caused a reactor meltdown. And then there was Ren. Ren was 10 years old. He was the oldest of the cubs and their unofficial leader. He had dark silver fur and amber eyes that watched everything with sharp intelligence. When Yuna entered the room they had been assigned, Ren stood in front of the other cubs like a shield. "You are not Velari," he said. His voice was young but steady. "Why should we listen to you?" Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she slowly crouched down until she was at his eye level. She did not show fear. She did not show anger. She just met his gaze with calm patience. "Because right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and a lot of trouble," she said. "And believe me, little one, I have handled worse than you." Ren's ears flattened against his head. But something changed in his eyes. It was not respect exactly. More like curiosity. Like he was trying to figure her out. The other cubs watched the exchange with wide eyes. They had never seen anyone talk to Ren like that. They had never seen anyone refuse to back down from him. Yuna stood up and looked around the room. It was small and cramped, not designed for so many occupants. The cubs had piled blankets in the corners and created little nests for themselves. They had scratched marks into the walls and chewed on the furniture. It smelled like wet fur and fear. "All right," Yuna said. "Here is how this is going to work. I'm going to take care of you until your families finish their work. I'm going to make sure you eat, sleep, and stay safe. In return, you're going to follow my rules." "What rules?" a small voice asked. It was Suri, the youngest. She was only 4, with fluffy white fur and enormous blue eyes. Yuna smiled at her. "Rule 1, no biting. Rule 2, no running in the corridors. Rule 3, when I say stop, you stop." She paused. Can you remember those? Suri nodded slowly. The other cubs looked uncertain, but they did not argue. And so began the hardest week of Yuna's life. The cubs tested her constantly. They pushed every boundary, broke every rule, and watched to see how she would react. Kale pretended to be tough and aggressive, but Yuna noticed how he cried at night when he thought no one was listening. Myra and Tova were chaos wrapped in fur, but they were also fiercely protective of each other. Suri was terrified of everything, but she was also the sweetest child Yuna had ever met. Ren watched. He watched how Yuna handled each crisis. He watched how she broke up fights without yelling. He watched how she comforted Suri during her nightmares. He watched how she bandaged wounds and wiped tears and never once lost her patience. On the third day, Kale got into a fight with another cub and scratched his arm badly. Yuna cleaned the wound carefully and wrapped it in bandages. Kale watched her work with confused eyes. Why do you help us? He asked. We are not your pack. Yuna finished the bandage and looked at him. Does that matter? It matters to Valari. Pack is everything. We do not help outsiders. Well, Yuna said gently, humans are different. We help everyone who needs it. Even grumpy little cubs who bite. Kale's ears turned red. He looked away, embarrassed. But Yuna saw the small smile he tried to hide. By the end of the first week, something had changed. The cubs still caused trouble, but it was smaller trouble. They still pushed boundaries, but they also started to listen. They began to trust her, slowly and carefully, like wild animals learning that a human meant no harm. Ren was the last to soften. He kept his distance, kept his suspicious eyes on her, kept waiting for her to fail or give up or show her true nature. But Yuna never did. On the seventh night, Yuna sat in the corner of the room doing her reports. The cubs were supposed to be asleep, but she could hear them whispering in their nests. She pretended not to notice. Suddenly, she felt something warm press against her side. She looked down and found Suri curled up next to her, already half asleep. Suri, Yuna whispered. You should be in your nest. Too far, Suri mumbled. You are warm. Yuna did not have the heart to move her. She just smiled and went back to her reports, one hand gently resting on Suri's soft fur. Across the room, Ren watched from the shadows. His amber eyes glowed in the darkness. He saw how Suri trusted the human. He saw how the human did not push her away. Something shifted in his chest. Something he did not yet have words for. The human was strange. She had no fur, no claws, no sharp teeth. She was soft and slow and weak by Valari standards. But she was also patient and kind and steady. She showed up every day. She never complained. She never gave up. Maybe, Ren thought, maybe she was not so different from Pack after all. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. But the thought stayed with him, warm and confusing, like a fire he did not know how to tend. In the corner, Yuna finished her reports and leaned her head back against the wall. She was exhausted. Her body ached. She had not slept properly in days. But when she looked at the room full of sleeping cubs, she smiled. This was harder than she had expected. But it was also more rewarding than she had ever imagined. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know how long the Valari would stay or where they would go when they left. But she knew one thing for certain. These cubs had wormed their way into her heart. And she would protect them with everything she had, even if it cost her everything. The horizon's edge was running out of food. Nobody said it out loud. The captain did not make an announcement. The officers did not discuss it in the corridors. But everyone knew. The signs were everywhere. The portions in the galley grew smaller each day. The snacks disappeared from the recreation room. The crew started skipping meals and pretending they were not hungry. Yuna understood the math. The ship had been stocked for a crew of 45 humans on a 3-week patrol. Now they had 37 extra mouths to feed. The nearest supply station was still 6 days away. There simply was not enough food for everyone. The captain had ordered strict rationing. Every person received exactly 1 meal packet per day. It was not much. Just enough to survive. Just enough to keep moving. But the cubs needed more. Valari children had fast metabolisms. They burned energy quickly and needed protein to grow properly. A single meal packet was not enough for them. Yuna could see it in their eyes, in the way they licked their empty bowls, in the way their energy faded as the days passed. So she made a choice. She started giving her food to the cubs. It was easy at first. She would take her meal packet, open it in front of the cubs, and then find excuses to share it. "I am not very hungry today," she would say. Or, "This is too much for me. Does anyone want the rest?" Or, "I already ate earlier. You should have this." The cubs believed her. Why would they not? Adults did not lie about food. Adults always had enough. By the 3rd day, Yuna had not eaten a real meal in over 48 hours. Ensign Jie Quan noticed first. She was a young woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She worked in the medical bay and often passed through the section where Yuna watched the cubs. "Park," Jie said one afternoon. "You look terrible." Yuna forced a smile. "Thank you. That is exactly what every woman wants to hear. I am serious. You have lost weight. Your skin is pale. When was the last time you ate?" "I had breakfast this morning." "Liar." Jie crossed her arms. "I checked the meal distribution logs. You have not picked up your ration in 3 days. Yuna's smile faded. She looked away, unable to meet Jihee's eyes. "The cubs need it more than me. The cubs have their own rations. It is not enough. They are growing. They need protein. Have you seen how thin Suri has gotten? Have you seen how tired Kale is?" Yuna's voice cracked slightly. "I cannot just watch them starve, Shea. I cannot." Jie was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed and rubbed her forehead. "You are going to kill yourself. I am fine." "You are not fine. You are running on caffeine and stubbornness." Jie reached into her pocket and pulled out a small protein bar. "Here, take it." Yuna shook her head. "You need that. I am not the one trying to mother a dozen alien children on an empty stomach." Jie pressed the bar into Yuna's hand. "Eat it. That is an order from your friendly neighborhood medic." Yuna looked at the protein bar. Her stomach growled loudly enough for both of them to hear. But instead of eating it, she slipped it into her pocket. "I will save it for later," she said. Jie knew that was a lie. She knew Yuna would give it to one of the cubs the moment she turned her back. But she also knew there was no point in arguing. Humans were stubborn creatures. And Yuna was the most stubborn human she had ever met. That night, Yuna sat with the cubs during story time. This had become their favorite part of the day. Yuna would tell them stories from Earth, tales of brave heroes and clever animals and magical adventures. The cubs would gather around her, their eyes wide with wonder, their tails wagging slowly as they listened. Tonight, Yuna told them about a girl named Xin Qiang who dove into the sea to save her blind father. The cubs gasped at the dangerous parts and cheered at the happy ending. When the story was over, they begged for another one. "Tomorrow," Yuna promised. Her voice was weaker than usual. "It is time for sleep now." The cubs groaned but obeyed. They had learned that arguing with Yuna was pointless. She was gentle but firm, like a mountain that could not be moved. As they settled into their nests, Yuna leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. The room spun slightly. Her head ached. Her hands trembled when she tried to hold them still. She was so hungry. Across the room, Ren watched her from his nest. His amber eyes missed nothing. He saw the way Yuna pressed a hand to her stomach when she thought no one was looking. He saw the way she winced when she stood up too fast. He saw the dark circles under her eyes and the hollowness in her cheeks. He had been watching her for days, and he had noticed something strange. The human never ate Dot at first. Ren thought she just ate at different times. Maybe humans had different meal schedules. Maybe she preferred to eat alone. But then he started paying closer attention. Every time food appeared, Yuna gave it to the cubs. Every single time. She would smile and claim she was not hungry, but her body told a different story. Her stomach growled constantly. Her movements were slower. Her scent had changed, becoming sharp and thin, the way prey animals smelled when they were weak. Ren knew that smell. It was the smell of starvation. The human was starving herself. For them, the realization hit Ren like a blow to the chest. He did not understand it. Why would she do this? They were not her pack. They were not her family. They were strangers, aliens, creatures so different from her that they might as well be from different universes. But she was giving them her food. She was giving them her strength. She was slowly killing herself so they could live. Ren had never seen anything like it. In Valari culture, pack was everything. You protected your pack with your life. You shared your food with your pack without question. But you did not do these things for outsiders. Outsiders had to earn their place. Outsiders had to prove their worth. Yuna had not asked to be part of their pack. She had not tried to prove anything. She had just shown up and started taking care of them, quietly, patiently, without expecting anything in return. That night, after the other cubs fell asleep, Ren crept out of his nest. He moved silently across the room and stopped in front of Yuna. She had fallen asleep sitting up, her head tilted at an uncomfortable angle, her breathing slow and shallow. Ren studied her face. Without the constant smile, she looked tired. Old, almost. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her like a heavy stone. He reached out and gently touched her hand. Her skin was cool, almost cold. Humans were supposed to be warm. He had felt Yuna's warmth before, when she hugged the younger cubs or ruffled their fur. But now that warmth was fading. Something twisted in Ren's chest. It was a feeling he had only experienced once before, when his mother had been sick and he had been too young to help. Helplessness, fear, and underneath it all, a burning determination to do something, anything, to make things right. He pulled his hand back and returned to his nest. But he did not sleep. He lay there in the darkness, thinking, planning, trying to find a solution. The human had taken care of them. Now it was time for them to take care of her. He would talk to the other cubs tomorrow. He would explain the situation. He would come up with a plan. Ren did not know much about humans, but he knew one thing for certain. Yuna was pack. Maybe not officially, maybe not by Valari standards, but in every way that mattered, she had proven herself, and pack protected pack. No matter what. The next morning, Ren gathered the cubs in the corner of their room while Yuna was in the refresher. He had waited until he heard the water running before calling the meeting. They did not have much time. Listen carefully, he whispered. I have something important to tell you. The other cubs crowded around him. Kale pushed to the front, his ears perked with curiosity. Myra and Tova pressed against each other, their tails intertwined. Little Suri sat at Ren's feet, looking up at him with big blue eyes. What is it? Kale asked. Did something happen? Ren took a deep breath. The human is starving herself. Silence fell over the group. The cubs looked at each other, confused. What do you mean? Myra asked. I mean, she is not eating. She has been giving all her food to us. Ren's voice was tight with emotion. Have you not noticed? She never eats with us. She always says she is not hungry. but her stomach growls all the time. And she is getting weaker. The cubs were quiet as they processed this information. Kale's ears flattened against his head. Suri's lower lip began to tremble. But why? Suri whispered. Why would she do that? Because she is taking care of us, Tova said slowly. Because she wants us to have enough food. But that is what Pac does, Kale said. She is not Pac. She is just a human. Ren shook his head. No, she is more than that. He looked around at the other cubs, his amber eyes burning with intensity. Think about it. She feeds us. She protects us. She stays with us, even when we are difficult. She tells us stories and bandages our wounds, and holds us when we are scared. What does that sound like to you? The cubs exchanged glances. The answer was obvious. It was what their own mothers did. It was what pack leaders did. It was what family did. She acts like Pac, Kale admitted quietly. She is Pac, Ren corrected. Maybe not officially. Maybe not by the old rules. But she has earned it. And Pac takes care of Pac. Suri tugged on Ren's fur. What do we do? How do we help her? Ren smiled. It was a strange expression on his face, one he had learned from watching Yuna. We feed her. Just like she has been feeding us. The cubs nodded eagerly. They liked this plan. It was simple and clear and felt right in their hearts. But how? Myra asked. We do not have extra food. We will get extra food, Ren said. The adults trust us. They will give us more if we ask nicely. We can save half and give it to Yuna. She will not accept it, Kale pointed out. She will say she's not hungry and give it back to us. Then we do not give it to her directly. We hide it where she will find it. We leave it in her quarters, in her pockets, in places she will discover later. Ren's smile grew wider. Humans call it a surprise. I saw it in one of their stories. The cubs chittered with excitement. This was like a game, a secret mission. They loved secret missions. We need teams, Ren continued. He had thought about this all night. Team 1 will get the extra food. Cal and I will talk to the adults and ask for more rations. We will say we are still hungry and growing fast. Kale nodded. He was good at looking pitiful when he wanted to be. Team 2 will watch Yuna and learn her schedule. Myra and Tova, you are fast and quiet. Follow her and find out when she takes breaks and when her room is empty. The twins grinned at each other. Spying was their specialty. Team 3 will deliver the food. Suri, you are the smallest and cutest. No one will suspect you of anything. You will sneak into Yuna's quarters and leave the food where she will find it. Suri's eyes went wide. Me? But I am scared of getting caught. Ren crouched down and put his paws on her shoulders. I know you are scared. But this is important. Yuna needs us. Can you be brave for her? Suri thought about Yuna. She thought about the warm hugs and gentle words. She thought about the stories and the smiles and the feeling of safety she had whenever the human was near. Yes, Suri said firmly. I can be brave. Good. Ren stood up. We start today. Remember, this is a secret. Yuna cannot know what we are doing. If she finds out, she will try to stop us. The cubs nodded solemnly. They understood. This was pack business. Sacred and serious. The sound of the refresher door opening made them scatter. By the time Yuna emerged, the cubs were all in different corners of the room, pretending to be busy with their own activities. Yuna looked around with tired eyes. What are you all up to? Nothing, 11 voices said in perfect unison. Yuna raised an eyebrow. That was suspicious. But she was too exhausted to investigate. Her head was pounding, and her vision kept blurring at the edges. She needed to sit down. All right, she said. Breakfast time. Everyone line up. The cubs obeyed, forming a neat line at the door. But as they walked to the galley, they exchanged secret glances behind Yuna's back. The mission had begun. Operation Feed. The humans started that very morning. Kale and Ren approached Elder Voss after breakfast. The old Valari was a stern figure with gray streaks in his silver fur and a permanent frown on his face. But he had a soft spot for cubs. All Valari adults did. Elder Voss, Ren said in his most respectful voice. May we speak with you? Voss looked down at them. What is it, young ones? We are still hungry, Kale said. He let his ears droop and his tail hang low. The human food is strange. It does not fill us up properly. Could we please have extra rations? Voss's frown softened. You are growing cubs. Of course you need more food. He reached into his pack and pulled out 2 protein bars. Here, share these with your brothers and sisters. Thank you, Elder Voss. Ren bowed his head. You are very kind. They scurried away before Voss could ask any questions. As soon as they were out of sight, they broke the protein bars in half and tucked the pieces into their pockets. That was easy, Kale whispered. Do not get overconfident, Ren warned. We need to do this every day without getting caught. Stay careful. Meanwhile, Mira and Tova had begun their reconnaissance mission. They followed Yuna at a distance, noting her movements and habits. They discovered that she visited the observation deck every afternoon at the same time. She would sit by the big window and stare at the stars for exactly 12 minutes. During this time, her room was empty. That is our window, Myra reported back to Ren. 12 minutes every day at 1400 hours. Perfect. Ren turned to Suri. Are you ready? Suri's heart was beating fast. Her paws were sweating. But she remembered her promise to be brave. I am ready. At exactly 1400 hours, while Yuna sat at the observation deck, Suri crept toward her quarters. The corridors were quiet. Most of the crew was on duty. Suri moved on silent paws, her small body pressed against the walls. The door to Yuna's room was not locked. Suri pushed it open and slipped inside. The room was small and neat. There was a bed, a desk, a chair, and a small closet. Everything was organized perfectly. Yuna did not have many personal belongings. Just a few photographs stuck to the wall and a small plant on the desk. Suri looked at the photographs. They showed Yuna with other humans, smiling and laughing. There was an older woman who looked like her. A man with kind eyes. Several younger humans who might be siblings. A family. Yuna had a family far away. A pack of her own. But she was here, taking care of strange alien children instead. Suri felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away and focused on her mission. She pulled the food from her pocket. Half a protein bar, a piece of dried fruit, and a water packet. It was not much, but it was everything they could spare. She wrapped the food carefully in a piece of cloth and placed it on Yuna's pillow. Then she looked around to make sure nothing was disturbed. Everything looked normal. Good. Suri crept back to the door and peeked outside. The corridor was clear. She slipped out and ran back to the cubs' room as fast as her little legs could carry her. When she arrived, the other cubs surrounded her with eager questions. Did you do it? Did anyone see you? Where did you leave it? On her pillow, Suri said breathlessly. She will find it tonight. The cubs cheered quietly, keeping their voices low so the adults would not hear. They had done it. The first delivery was complete. Now they just had to keep doing it until the supply ship arrived. Ren watched his pack with pride. They were working together. They were taking care of their human. They were being brave and clever and kind. This was what pack meant. Not just blood and fur and shared dens, but choice, loyalty, love. Yuna had chosen them. Now they were choosing her, and nothing would stop them from keeping her safe. Yuna found the first bundle that evening. She had dragged herself back to her quarters after putting the cubs to bed. Her body felt like it was made of lead. Every step was a struggle. Every breath took effort. She had not eaten properly in 5 days now, and her body was starting to shut down. She collapsed onto her bed without even changing out of her uniform. Her head hit the pillow, and she felt something crinkle underneath. What was that? She reached under the pillow and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. For a moment, she just stared at it, too tired to process what she was seeing. Then she slowly unwrapped it. Inside was half a protein bar, a piece of dried fruit, and a water packet. Yuna's heart stopped. She looked around the room, searching for answers. Had someone from the crew left this? But why would they hide it under her pillow? And why wrap it in cloth? Then she noticed something. A small tuft of silver fur was caught in the fabric. Silver fur. The cubs. Yuna's throat tightened. She picked up the fur and held it gently between her fingers. It was soft and fine, probably from one of the younger cubs. Suri, maybe. Or one of the twins. They had done this. They had snuck into her room and left her food. But how did they know? She had been so careful to hide her hunger from them. She had smiled and laughed and pretended everything was fine. How could they possibly have figured it out? She thought about Ren's watchful eyes. The way he always seemed to be studying her, analyzing her, looking for something she could not name. Of course. Ren had noticed. And if Ren knew, then all the cubs knew. Yuna looked down at the food in her hands. Her stomach screamed at her to eat it. Her body begged for nourishment. But she hesitated. This food had come from the cubs' own rations. They had taken from their own portions to feed her. They were children growing children, and they needed every calorie they could get. She should give it back. She should march into their room right now and return their gift. But she was so tired. So hungry. So weak. Just this once, she told herself. Just this once, I will accept their kindness. Tomorrow I will tell them to stop. She ate the protein bar slowly, savoring every bite. It was not much, but it was everything. When she finished, she drank the water and ate the dried fruit. Then she lay back on her bed and cried. She did not know why she was crying. Maybe it was the hunger. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Or maybe it was the overwhelming feeling of being cared for by creatures she had only known for 2 weeks. These children owed her nothing. She was a stranger, an alien, a creature from another world. But they had seen her suffering and decided to help. They had taken food from their own mouths to put into hers. It was the kindest thing anyone had done for her in a very long time. The next day, there was another bundle. This time, it was hidden under her datapad. The day after, she found one tucked into her uniform pocket while she was not looking. Then another in her desk drawer. Then another in her shoe. Every day, without fail, the food appeared. Small portions, carefully wrapped, always hidden in clever places. The cubs never mentioned it. They acted like nothing had changed. But Yuna could see the satisfied glances they exchanged when they thought. She was not watching. She tried to catch them in the act. She changed her schedule, stayed in her room at unexpected times, watched the cubs more carefully than ever. But they were too clever. They always seemed to be one step ahead. On the 4th day of the deliveries, Yuna finally caught one of them. She had decided to return to her room early, claiming she needed to use the refresher. Instead, she waited just around the corner and watched. Sure enough, within minutes, a small figure appeared. It was Kale, clutching a bundle against his chest, creeping toward her door with exaggerated care. Yuna stepped out from her hiding spot. Kale, the cub, froze. His ears shot straight up. His eyes went wide with terror. "What is in your hands?" Yuna asked gently. Kale's mouth opened and closed several times. No sound came out. He looked like a small criminal caught in the middle of a heist. "Kale," Yuna repeated. She crouched down to his level. It is all right. I am not angry. Just tell me the truth. The dam broke. Please, do not be angry. Kale burst out. Ren said we had to help because you were pack and pack takes care of each other, and you were not eating, and we could tell because you smell different when you are hungry and your stomach makes noises all the time, and Suri was scared you were going to disappear like her grandmother did when she stopped eating and... Hey. Yuna reached out and pulled Kale into a hug. Hey, breathe. It is okay. Kale went rigid with surprise. For a moment, he did not know what to do. Valari cubs were not usually hugged by non-family members. It was too intimate, too personal. But then he felt Yuna's warmth surrounding him. He felt her heart beating against his ear. He smelled her scent, familiar and comforting, mixed with the faint sharp edge of hunger that had worried him so much. He melted into the embrace and wrapped his arms around her. You noticed, Yuna whispered into his fur. You cubs actually noticed. Of course we noticed. Kale's voice was muffled against her shoulder. You are our human. How could we not notice? Our human. The words hit Yuna like a wave. She had to take a moment to compose herself before she could speak again. Who else knows? She asked. Everyone. Ren figured it out first. He made us promise to keep it secret. Yuna laughed. It was a weak, watery laugh, but it was real. Ren organized all of this? He is a good leader. Kale pulled back and looked at her with serious eyes. He says you are pack. He says pack protects pack. We were just doing what pack does. That night, Yuna called all 12 cubs to her quarters. They filed in nervously, ears flat, tails tucked, expecting to be scolded. Instead, they found Yuna sitting on the floor with all the food bundles arranged in front of her. Sit down, she said. They sat. You have been stealing food from me, Yuna began. From your own rations. From the adults. The cubs stared at the floor. None of them spoke. That was dangerous. If you had been caught, you could have gotten in serious trouble. The adults might have thought you were hoarding food. They might have punished you. Still silence. Ren finally raised his head and met her gaze defiantly. We were not going to let you starve, he said. Ren, I am a grown human. I can handle being hungry for a few days. I can handle being hungry for a few days. It would not have killed me, but you should not have to. A small voice cut through the tension. It was Suri, her big blue eyes filled with tears. You take care of us. Someone should take care of you too. Yuna's composure cracked. Her eyes filled with tears that spilled down her cheeks. Come here, she said, opening her arms. All of you. Come here. The cubs did not need to be told twice. They piled into her lap, a mass of silver fur and small bodies and fierce, protective love. They nuzzled against her, chirped their affection, wrapped their tails around her arms. Suri burrowed into her chest. Kale pressed his forehead against her shoulder. The twins curled up on either side of her dot, and Ren, proud and stubborn Ren, finally let down his guard and rested his head in her lap. Thank you, Yuna whispered into the fur. All of you. Thank you. They stayed like that for a long time, 12 cubs and 1 human, wrapped together in a pile of warmth and love and belonging. Yuna had come to space to find adventure. She had found something much better. She had found a pack. The supply ship arrived 2 days later. It came out of hyperspace like a gift from the universe. One moment there was empty void, and the next there was a massive vessel filled with food, water, medicine, and hope. The crew of the Horizon's Edge cheered when they saw it on their sensors. Some of them cried. Within hours, the supplies were being transferred. Fresh rations flooded the ship. The galley filled with real food, hot meals, things that did not come in foil packets. The smell of cooking drifted through the corridors for the first time in weeks. The Valari adults wept with relief. They had been strong throughout the crisis, hiding their fear from the cubs, working tirelessly to help the human crew. But now the danger was over. They could finally let themselves feel. Elder Vos found Captain Shin in the command center and bowed deeply. "We are in your debt," Vos said. "You saved our lives. We will never forget this kindness." Captain Shin shook his head. "You owe us nothing. We did what anyone would do." Vos smiled sadly. "No, you did what humans would do. My people are not so generous with outsiders." The captain thought about this for a moment. Then he looked out the window at the stars. "Maybe that is something we can learn from each other," he said. "Your people have many strengths: loyalty, honor, fierce protection of family. But perhaps there is room for a wider definition of family. A bigger pack." Vos did not answer, but the seed was planted. In the cubs' room, a celebration was underway. Yuna had filled her plate first this time. The cubs had refused to eat until she did. They sat in a circle around her, watching with satisfied eyes as she ate real food for the first time in days. "More," Kale demanded, pushing a bread roll toward her. "You are too thin." "I am fine, Kale." "You are not fine. Your ribs show through your clothes." "Eat more." Yuna laughed and accepted the roll. She had learned there was no point arguing with her cubs when they got like this. Her cubs. She thought of them that way now. Not the Valari children or the refugees or the aliens. Her cubs. Her pack. When the meal was finished, Ren stood up. He had a serious expression on his face. The other cubs grew quiet, sensing something important was about to happen. "Yuna Park," Ren said formally. "We have something we want to give you." Yuna raised an eyebrow. "Another food bundle?" "No." Ren shook his head. "Something bigger." He looked around at the other cubs, and they all stood up together. They formed a circle around Yuna, their faces solemn and reverent. "In Valari culture, pack is everything," Ren explained. "You are born into a pack. You live with your pack. You die with your pack. It is the most important bond we have." Yuna nodded slowly. She had learned this during her time with them. "But sometimes," Ren continued, "pack can be chosen. When someone proves themselves worthy. When someone earns their place through actions, not blood." He stepped forward and stood directly in front of Yuna. "You fed us when you had nothing. You protected us when we were afraid. You stayed with us when you could have left. You gave us everything and asked for nothing in return." His voice cracked slightly, but he pushed through. "You are pack, Yuna Park. Not because we decided it, but because you proved it. Every day. In every action. In every sacrifice." He reached out and pressed his forehead against hers. It was the highest honor a Valari could give. The touch of foreheads meant absolute trust. Complete acceptance. Unbreakable bond. "Now and always," Ren whispered. "You are one of us." One by one, the other cubs repeated the gesture. Kale stepped forward, trying hard not to cry, and pressed his forehead to hers. The twins came together, synchronized as always. Each of the other cubs took their turn, some nervous, some eager, all sincere. Little Suri came last. She had to stand on her toes to reach, and Yuna had to bend down to meet her. When their foreheads touched, Suri made a small chirping sound. "What does that mean?" Yuna asked. "It means I love you," Suri said simply. In the old language, the one we use for family. Yuna could not hold back the tears any longer. They streamed down her face as she pulled Suri into a hug. "I love you too," she whispered. "All of you. So much." The cubs piled onto her again, just like they had done before. But this time, it felt different. The four, they were comforting each other in a time of crisis. Now, they were celebrating something new. Something permanent. A family. A pack. A bond that would last forever. The Valari stayed on the horizon's edge for 3 more weeks. Their own ship was beyond repair, so they needed to wait for a transport to take them home. During this time, the Cubs followed Yuna everywhere. They attended her shifts, sat in on her briefings, and slept in a pile outside her door when she shooed them back to their own room. The human crew found it amusing. First Officer Do-Wan Lee started calling Yuna Pack Mother as a joke. The name stuck. Elder Voss watched all of this with curious eyes. He had heard the reports of the human. Caretaker, capable, calm, efficient. But he had not understood the depth of it until he saw the Cubs with her. One day, he approached Captain Shin with a question. Why do they love her so much? He asked. She is not Valari. She is not Pack. She is an outsider. Captain Shin smiled. It was a knowing smile, like he had been waiting for this question. With respect, Elder, I think your Cubs would disagree. Voss frowned. She fed them. That is a debt, not a bond. She gave them her food when she had nothing else. She starved herself so they could eat. And when they found out, she did not scold them or push them away. She accepted their care with grace and gratitude. The captain paused. That is not a transaction, Elder. That is love. Voss was silent for a long moment. In his long life, he had never seen an outsider earn the devotion of Valari Cubs. He had thought it was impossible, but here was proof that it was not. Humans are strange, he finally said. Yes, Captain Shin agreed. We are, but perhaps that is not such a bad thing. The day the transport arrived was hard. The Cubs did not want to leave. They clung to Yuna with desperate paws, begging her to come with them. Suri cried so hard she could barely breathe. Even Ren, proud and strong Ren, had tears streaming down his fur. I cannot come with you, Yuna said gently. I have duties here. People who depend on me. We depend on you, Kale argued. You are our pack. I will always be your pack. Distance does not change that. Yuna knelt down and looked each of them in the eye. You are going home. To your parents, your families, your world. You will grow up and become amazing. And wherever you are, whatever you do, I will be proud of you. Will we see you again? Suri asked in a small voice. Yuna smiled and touched her forehead to Suri's one last time. I promise, she said. Somehow, someday, we will meet again. Until then, be brave. Be kind. Take care of each other. That is what Pack does. The Cubs boarded the transport one by one. Each of them looked back at Yuna as they walked through the airlock. Each of them tried to memorize her face, her smell, the sound of her voice. Ren was the last to board. He stopped at the threshold and turned around. Thank you, he said. For everything. Thank you, Yuna replied. For saving me. Ren's ears perked up in surprise. We saved you? In every way that matters. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. That strange human smile he had learned from watching her, and walked through the airlock. The transport departed an hour later. Yuna stood at the observation deck and watched it go. The ship grew smaller and smaller until it was just a point of light among the stars. Then it jumped to hyperspace and vanished. She stayed there for a long time, watching the empty void where her Cubs had been. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Ensign G.A. Kwan came to stand beside her. They really loved you, G.A. said quietly. I really loved them. Do you think you will see them again? Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. Yes, she said. I do, because that is what Pack does. They find each other, no matter how far apart they are, no matter how long it takes. She turned away from the window and walked back toward her duties, but she carried the cubs with her. In her heart, in her memories, and the small tuft of silver fur she had saved from that first food bundle. She was Unipark, Lieutenant, Pack, Mother, Human, and she would never be alone again.